Hi, I'm Greg from RVHaulers. You've been forewarned. This is a deep dive into the details, 10 pages of details that have gone into the building of this custom RV hauler for Julie and Tim. If you'd like to see lots of details and you've got the patience for a long video, join me. Well, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I warn you, this has got a lot of information in it, this video in particular, and I've got 480 some other videos you can check out on my channel. If you're interested in spending some time and learning about the guy, me, that likes to count rock chips, join me. If you're returning to the channel, thanks for your interest. The purpose of this video is, first of all, for me to say, hi Julie, oh, and hi Tim. Those are my customers. I'm making this video primarily for them. But hello as well, YouTube. If you would like to join us, what I'm doing today is what I would call a pre-delivery inspection video. Over the last while, Julie and Tim and myself have made 8 revisions of our project plan. We're always refining and tweaking and modifying it. And before they head this way and get their training and see Ruby for the first time in person, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these 10 pages line by line and show you folks the level of detail that goes into, first of all, designing and then manufacturing one of these custom RV haulers. We're going to be jumping all around Ruby here, and really what's going to guide us is starting on page 1 of 10. We're going to go into each of these line items. You'll see as well, each of them has been broken down by price. I'm really open book about what every task takes for time and materials and effort and ultimately cost. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the first line item, which is a deep clean and detail of the interior. Remember, these RV haulers have been someone's home sometimes for the last number of years, if they're a used unit. And we get into every nook and cranny, and I want to show you how tidy this RV hauler is now. So line number 1, let's go check it off and check out inside what Ruby looks like. So we'll spend on average a couple days getting into every nook and cranny. We're pulling plastics off, and we're doing things like getting into even the little, cracks here around the rubber seals and all the rubber around the seats. We even lift off some of the seats and get underneath so that when you look at it, hopefully in the sun from every single angle, you don't find dust or dirt. Of course, what's really important is we're starting with a super clean truck to begin with, right? We're picking the cream puffs, the ones where they've been shoes off kinds of owners. Let's get inside and show you another couple angles. So we get all the brushes out, and the detailing brushes get around the buttons, the back sides of switches where your hands have often been residing over time. We've actually removed all of these buttons and cleaned around them as well. So even when you flip it down or the sun comes at the right angle, you're not going to see dust around those. Taking those out. We'll come back to the dash cam in a minute. But all the surfaces are clean and shiny. As well, all the fabrics have been detailed with upholstery cleaner, Sorry about the backlighting. There we go. So up in here, we've pulled everything down, moved everything. So the bed has all been sanitized. Sorry about the backlighting. There we go. One of these windows had been left open once in the rain, obviously, and there was a little bit of staining there, so we spent some time on that. I know Joshua was happy with that in the end. But the back wall's all done. Things like the fridge, And I can do even, you know, I'm not afraid to look under any of these surfaces. There's the jockey boxes, are all clean. Of course, the filters in there have been changed as well. The carpet's been cleaned. I'll talk about the cushions in a minute. That's another line item. There's some of the parts that we're going to be, oh sorry, it's a little dark in there. And here's one that people tend to miss. They don't realize that there's a little drawer back here. There's the manual for the new inverter charger that we installed, but that's been detailed. Every cabinet has been opened and cleaned and vacuumed and washed. Next on the list, paint, cut, and power polishing the lower half of the truck. There was still a few decal shadows that remained. Let's go look at those. And you know what? I'll do this one as well. We had some body work on a scratched lower fairing, and we painted that at the same time. We'll check out those two line items. What I'm referring to in the ghosting is there used to be some decals, you know, on the door, and of course there was a company logo that was across here, and all those DOT numbers, you know, that you often see on the side of the sleeper were here. And when they're removed, you can see the shadows. You can see we power polished them, and you don't see any remnants of those. And we've power polished the whole truck, so everything from here down was power polished. So we try to lessen, you know, there's always a few little scratches, but we got rid of a lot of those. And of course it washes really nice now that it's been power polished. Let's look at the other side. So let's get in close here, and I'll try to give you a few different angles, but hopefully with the camera you can pick up and see that there's nothing to note there. What we also had was we had a fairly good scratch in this lower fairing, and when I really looked at it, it was going to require some body work. The scratch was quite a deep gouge, so rather than filling and worrying about that fill, because of course this is a flexible fender, right? It's a fiber poly fender, and with time I was worried that maybe that filler or Bondo would come out, so didn't take a chance. I bought a new fender, lower fairing, and paint matched it to the truck. So you can see it came out really well. You can see the new fender down there. So that was some of the work that we did. Also, while going around the truck and doing our conversion, we found that this lower bumper section was cracked in behind. So it had a little bit of play in here that I really didn't like. So again, rather than trying to, you know, strengthen it or fix it, we bought a new corner, new lower bumper. And again, I think the paint match came out really well. Well, we're on to page 2. The passenger mirror had a crack, so I'm going to show you that. We put on new chrome on the lower bumper. I'll show you that. And I'm also going to show you some stainless bumper bolts. Let's go find all of those around the truck. So 3 things at once. So I'm sorry, it's a little dirty from driving, but that is a brand new piece of chrome on the back of that mirror. As well, this housing, this black part around here, had a crack in it as well. So in the end, we kept the glass, but we replaced the housing and the back of the chrome, and we also installed new chrome pieces down here. So those are new, just to really make Ruby look nice. That center piece is new, as is of course the one here on the right hand side. Now the third item I was going to show you was, in the past, the previous owner had replaced some bolts here on these fairings. What happened was, back here, These are plastic. The vertical fairings are plastic and they cracked. You can actually see the crack on that one. And the bolts they put in were non-stainless. So they were really kind of unsightly. So we got some new bolts. Getting the old ones out was quite a bit of work. But all around here, there was a few of those, and by replacing them with chrome, we know they're going to stay nice and they're not going to rust. And next, we're going to look at the minimizer floor mats. Here they are. So these are 3-piece, 1, 2, and there's a third one at the driver position. These are form-fitting mats that they're really nice. They fold up nicely. So if you ever get, you know, a little bit of mud or water or anything like that off your shoes, you can fold those up and pull them out, and they wash really nicely. All right, and sometimes we can't get a part. So in the fridge, there's a tray missing and a door missing. I've got the part numbers for these, and I haven't been able to get them, so we're going to keep looking. Next, let's talk about the cushions. It's quite common in these highway tractors that, you know, this table and bench configuration is used as a bed, right? And the owner will take these cushions out and put a real mattress here, right? This is their home. They want to sleep on something comfortable. So over time, we don't have these cushions. And I located a set of used ones that was in really nice condition. So I took the covers, laundered them very carefully, but I found that the foam was a little bit deteriorated. So what we did is we actually bought new foam, cut them to size, and put them in. And now the cushions look excellent. Well, and of course, to begin with, they weren't there. All right, let's do, what did we do? We just did workstation cushions. Next, we're going to go look at driving lights. In the past, we used to sand and power polish the driving lights, but that's, yeah. When you find some really nice aftermarket quality ones that are DOT compliant, it's better to just grab them and put them in. We'll go check that out, but while we're right here, the buttons on the dash, the push-pull buttons, they were a little worn from somebody's hand being on here all the time, so we put new ones on. But let's go look at those new driving lights. There they are. It's got a water droplet on it. There's 1 and 2. Again, just a little bit of splash from driving it, test driving it. Next on the list, the passenger seat, interestingly enough, was not an air ride seat. Kind of surprised us, but I always try to keep a few treasures and spare parts on hand, so I had a seat in stock. We moved the beautiful leather cushions over, so now we've got air ride, both driver and passenger. Next on the list, bug screen. So we were lucky. It's got these little standoff bolts that are under here, and they were already in place. Buying a set of those takes some time to put on, but anyways, they were there, and we got a new bug screen. So let's go somewhere warm where there's bugs, not snow. Last on page 2 is moving switches on the dash. So we removed ones that no longer had a purpose after singling, and we also consolidated the switches. So there were switches here, and there were switches here. There was a little panel with quite a few. Some were removed, some were migrated over to get ready for the camera system. So we've carefully steamed the engine and driven it, and the purpose of that is to steam it, drive it, and see if any leaks appear. We did have a couple. We've addressed those mechanically, and the engine is, you know, nothing's hitting the ground, nothing's dripping off that engine. The engine looks nice and dry now. Moving down, here's one that I think is really important that people need to think about with every RV hauler, and that is to establish a repair budget. The repair budget is something that really should be on everyone's RV hauler list. If you're converting your own, or if you're having a professional convert it for you, we've got a real attention to detail. And as we go through this truck and drive it and inspect it, we will find things that might not be reliable, or maybe unsafe, or they might not provide longevity, right? They might not last a long time, or maybe their performance is not ideal. Always have a budget set aside to repair things. And I've got a big laundry list of little things to big things that we've repaired on this truck. So I've personally driven Ruby for hundreds of miles, right? We didn't just convert and customize this truck. I've driven it, and I actually plan to drive it even more to make sure that, you know, no little things pop up in my drive. But I did have something pop up in the drive, and I'm going to describe it to you. We found in the final inspection, before we had Volvo go through this RVHauler as well, and I'll show you a report of that, but it's a 4-page, very detailed inspection that Volvo does for every one of my RVHaulers before they leave. And we found a wire that was flaky that led into the emission system, the diesel exhaust fluid tank. So there's a wire that goes up in there, and it took some searching and some finagling. Actually, I drove the RVHauler, and the Volvo tech sat in the passenger seat with his computer and was able to see live how the truck was performing, found the problem, traced it down to the harness, and ultimately we fixed it. So it's never going to be, it was an intermittent issue, right? It was coming and going, it wasn't always there, had to drive it. So by kind of tag teaming with Volvo, we solved it. And there's a number of small things on this truck that we've addressed just like that. Next on the list, rear tires. So we found that there was some uneven wear on some of the tires, so we cherry picked, grabbed some tires, really nice match set, polished the wheels as well, and now we've got some beautiful rears. Next on the list, this was just a question of Tim's. He wanted to confirm whether the stereo had Sirius satellite. It doesn't support Sirius satellite, but Bluetooth it does support. The next thing on the list was the cab alignment bushings. Let's go look at that. So of course I can't exactly show you, but in behind the drum box, what happens is this truck is always going down the road, and there's a crown on the road, and the cab is tilting to one side for its whole life, right? It's kind of going up and down and tilting. And what happens is there's some bushings that keep this cab aligned, and they wear. So I found that in the preliminary inspection. We've done cab shocks and airbags, and those alignment bushings all were in the plan, and they've been addressed. So there we go, we're on page 3. Cab alignment bushings are done. And we did the torque arms as well. The bushings and the torque arms were a little bit worn. And this is all broken down to little clip retainers that are $3 each, and there's special long bolts that go through the shocks. And so we're not just replacing the components, but we're replacing the hardware that holds them as well. While you're in there, why use old bolts? Put in new ones. They're all done. Let's go to page 4. On page 4, we've detailed air filters. We've detailed out coolant filter. We've checked the air conditioning system. We've done both fuel filters, engine oil filters, engine air filters, belts, and what else did we do? Oh, even down to the windshield wipers. Next on the list was the truck came with only one key. That doesn't work, so I got 2 additional sets of keys cut. And what else are we going to do? Oh, we did a complete transmission oil service. So the Volvo iShift transmission needs a specific kind of oil. It's really important that you stick with their oil. It's quite expensive, but it's worth it, right? For peace of mind. We also found a leaking air fitting. We replaced that. And also the rear axle leveling valve was leaking as well. Of course, that's something that's gone up and down, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of times. So we replaced it and put in a new one. Lastly, on page 4 is we balanced all the drive and steer tires. Of course, when we go down to a single rear axle and we've got our lighter loads back here, the truck is very susceptible to vibrations, right? Right? We don't have tens of thousands of pounds pushing down on the rear axles. We've got a few thousands of pounds from our pin weight. So balancing the tires is really important, and that has been done. On to page 5, rear brakes inspection. It's not good enough just to look at them externally. You really want to remove the drums and look for belling and all of that. So what we found was the fronts were great. The rears, we only needed the drums. We were able to use brake components from the power divider axle and move them to the rear just to save the parts necessary. While we're talking about brakes, top of page 5, this is also a great time for me to introduce the government inspection. So not only am I and my dream team here at RVHaulers going through these trucks meticulously, at the end of the project, I also make sure I take it to the Volvo Master Mechanics. And what they do is they do a government inspection. This is actually something that's registered in the Canadian online system. Anybody can take that VIN number who has access to the system, look it up and see the whole history about this truck and when it was inspected. You know, there's barcodes and it's a sticker that goes on the window. But on the topic of brakes, you'll see that they have measured the drums, the linings, you know, the pads for thickness, and you can see that, you know, my customers are going to get a copy of this. This was done just, if you look at the date on the final page, which I'll show you, it was done just a couple days ago. So the whole RVHauler is complete. I take it to the Volvo Master Mechanics, they go through it, and they go through all the brake systems. They've gone through air brakes, of course everything passed, steering sections, so looking at kingpins, linkages, instruments, lamps, electrical, body, so cab, air suspended cab, right? Remember how I said I replaced some things there? That's just the second, there's the third page. And the other kinds of things they look at is the powertrain, so they're looking at the exhaust system, and you'll see right here that I made a note that we repaired the emissions codes. Because they're the ones that helped me, they knew what was repaired. So there's a note of that. Suspension, brakes, air brakes, whole section on checking all the air brake systems. So the proportional valves and brake chambers, the body, tires, wheels, couplers, hitches, and here's the important thing. It has passed and there's a certificate number. Next, let's get into the 2 hitches. So in the project plan, of course, we've extended some frame rails. We've got a bumper pull and we've got the ET hitch. Let's go take a look at those. So I've removed the CANBed cover. If you're interested in learning more about this particular bed, which I'll talk about, it's a little later on in the binder, check out, there'll be a link down below in the description field for a link that just talks about the lightweight Never Rust CANBed. But here's the ET hitch. So this is the air ride cushioning hitch designed for up to a 30,000 pound gross trailer weight. And down here is our bumper pull with some nice D-rings, just like the binder says. Next on page 5 is our warranty. So Julie and Tim have decided to go with a 60-month powertrain warranty on this RVHauler. It's an aftermarket warranty. It's really nice. It's a True North system that I've been selling for a number of years. It's really tailored to our RVHaulers. It's something they actually created custom for me when I introduced RVHaulers to them. And it covers things like the engine, the transmission, the rear end, the emission system, which is really nice, the turbo, even things like the water pump. It's got towing and even injectors included now. and it's only a $300 deductible. Roughly, that is about $100 some a month to have that peace of mind. So the warranty is going to be in place. Now, next on the list was, as I talked to Julie and Tim described how he's, they're full-timing right now, and he really wanted to have a vise mounted in the bed somewhere kind of on a back corner where you could put things into the vise. But sadly, unfortunately, I really couldn't find, with my CANBed system, I couldn't find a super solid steel, because there's no steel in here, place to mount the vise. So what Tim is planning is he's going to grab a vise himself and he's going to use it in a receiver tube. So he's going to create an arm that comes up here, and he's going to mount a vise himself up here. That's a nice sturdy mounting point. So that's been removed from the budget. Next on the list is the decals. Originally, there wasn't a plan to include these custom decals that match their DRV. We've color matched them to their DRV. The reason we ended up going with decals is because of a surprise. Of course, this truck had commercial decals on here, the company ones. And what we found when we removed those decals was that previously, someone before had obviously removed decals and they had scratched into the paint. So it was covered and we didn't know it. So we took off the commercial decals and we found these scratches in the paint. And I mean, Ruby's a gorgeous truck. And I know that those little things sometimes bother us. So what we designed was a decal package that you see here that covers the scratches. Instead of repainting this whole truck, which was a costly undertaking, we marked where the scratches were, right? There was some right here and there was some right here in this location. I think somebody used a razor blade to scratch them off and we couldn't fix them. So we designed this graphics package to cover them. And if you look really carefully, you can still kind of see the little ghost of the scratches, but now that a decal's covering it, you really don't notice as much. Next is this herd animal bumper. So I had this one in stock. I was able to show a couple that I had here in the yard, and Tim and Julie liked the looks of it. They liked the look of the chrome. Of course, it goes nice with the new chrome that we've put on here. And this is manufactured by Herd, so this is a much higher quality one. So the strength of the steel tubing, the strength of the pins that go into the frame of the truck is really beefy, and it's a great insurance policy for protecting the front of the truck from animal strikes. Hitting one deer, one antelope, if you're in Wyoming, can cause many thousands of dollars of damage. And this was a $3,600 bumper that, in the event of a deer strike, will probably save you $5,000 to even $10,000. If that animal goes into the grill or into the charge area, like the air to air or anything like that, we're looking at a big bill. Are you still with me? Hi Julie, hey Tim, thanks for your patience, but I love it when people arrive in the yard and they go, it's just like I expected. The goal of this video, again, YouTube folks, is to make sure that you have a chance to pre-inspect this rig before you come, so that when you do arrive, there's no surprises, right? Things look as you would expect. We're up to page 6. And Julie and Tim chose to go with the TST tire pressure monitoring system. So we've got tire pressure sensors for the truck and the trailer and the spare. And what we've done is, my favorite place to mount this is right here. So it's not in your field of vision when you're driving. It is up here a little bit out of the direct sunlight too, so you can see it really well. We've programmed all the sensors in, all the high-low pressures, the temperature monitoring that it does. And what's nice is this comes on with the key. So we've got a lot of detail here that we did. We actually spent some time doing a layout about where everything was going to go on the dash above and below. So we've got the tire pressure monitoring here. We've got the speed aware Garmin dash camera up on the windshield. Again, it's all pre-programmed and set up. And these things come on when you turn the key on. I've also got some outlets on the dash. We decided where we were going to put the brake controller system. All of that's done. What's next on my list? All right. Also, there's a few things that we discussed that we chose not to do. So, you know, there's a few mission critical components that I was able to help Julie and Tim find, such as the Garmin GPS. They're buying one themselves, so it's automatically have it under their warranty. They're bringing it with them when they come. They're going to do training here in the yard, but we'll have the Garmin sitting right here where we planned, and I'll help them program it, and they'll have it with them for hitting the road. On to page 7. Oh, custom steps. I got to move the camera. So these are my CANSteps. So you can see them here. These are my full fiber-based products, so these will never rust. They're bolt-ons, so they go into the factory bolt position. They're a gritted surface. Sorry, it's a little muddy in the yard here. You can see my boots have been going up and down, but it's a gritted surface, so you never slip. Even the aluminum steps that are on there, sometimes if it's a little frosty or a little wet, you know, they can get slippery and frozen. So these ones can't. You'll see that the side supports are paint matched to the truck, and frankly, I think they look pretty good. I'll give you a little view here of what goes into them. So these are it's all a fiber based. You know, if you've heard of carbon fiber, if you look at the, you can see that little honeycomb pattern, hopefully in the camera. So the gridded surface is strengthened with this honeycomb, kind of a waffle pattern on the underside, and they're super light, which is nice. And the sides are manufactured out of an engineered fiber-based product. So the sides that you saw there are water jet or cut out of this solid system. This is like an 8-inch channel. And then using stainless hardware, these steps are bolted into here. If you're interested, I'll have those on my RVHauler store as well for you. Next on the list is our camera system. So this has been flush mounted into the dash. It's controlled with one of the auxiliary switches here. I'll take you around back and show you some of the components that go into this, but you can see it's looking at the hitch right now, and we've pre-painted a little white stripe on the hitch to help line up when you're connecting. Oh, I should have mentioned, this is actually a touchscreen, so we can hook up quite a few other cameras. So I could choose a front camera, I can choose a back camera. We can activate it should we choose to go with like a side view camera. It can activate or fire and switch over to that if you turned on your right signal light, for instance. But we don't have that. We've got just one camera right now, but Tim is going to be handling his own expansion to the back of the trailer. Let me show you what we've set up for them. So I'm going to have this box packaged for them with what we've planned on. But what we have is, in addition to the RV plug right there, we also have this other bulkhead connector, and I've got it plugged in right now. So we've got a bulkhead connector that's going to go on their DRV. So this umbilical is going to go to the underside of their DRV, and what it's going to allow them to do is, with a 65-foot cable, Tim and Julie are going to put another camera on the back of the DRV for backing up. Next on the list is an inverter. So this truck from the factory didn't have a charger inverter installed, so what we put in is a pure sine wave intelligent charger. So what the system does, it's mounted on the back side of this steel, so it's protected, it's on the other side of the steel wall. And when you plug in the shore power right here, this activates, it energizes all the outlets on the inside of the sleeper. There's 3 duplex outlets, and it intelligently charges and maintains the battery. So it actually charges all the way up to 55 amps. Let me show you where we mounted it. So I'm here behind the driver's seat, and I've removed the cushions and lifted up the the bench cover, and there is the charger inverter mounted there. We've got all the proper protections and resettable fuses in place. It's all integrated into the factory cab power system, and a really good mounting place for it. It's back here, and you can see it's monitoring our voltage. You can see it's a little bit low. I've had the ignition on for quite some time, so it's a little bit low, but that's how you control it. So after the inverter, we've got something we didn't include but we discussed, which was a air compressor in a bag. So Tim and Julie are going to source that themselves. We're including a porta potty. Do you need to see that? Maybe you won't. You know what that is. The customer, Tim and Julie, are going to take care of the microwave themselves, and they wanted to get a custom cover system. That's that hitch cover that you saw me remove. And next on the list is the chrome top hats and covers. So there they are. There's the fronts. And there we go. Work is still happening in the yard. Next after the top hats is we installed the CAN board, also affectionately known as the flux capacitor, in the jockey box. So that is right here. You can see this is kind of the central brain from where the brake controller runs, where we've done all kinds of power expansion, all fuse controlled, of course. And you know, the truck side comes in, the trailer side goes out. If you want to learn about these, turn on the monitoring so we can see our voltage as well. It turns on the lights in here because it's often quite dark. If you want to learn about the CAN board and how this is kind of the central brain to the wiring expansion and conversion we do, I've got a link to that down below in the description. Now, the part necessary after the CAN board installation is the direct link brake controller. So that is the kind of brain of the unit is mounted behind this panel. So you take out these 3 screws if you ever have to get to it, and it'll be tucked in here. But it ties into the ODB port on this 2015, and there is the display unit. All right, last item on this list on page 7 is we removed all the commercial equipment. So the commercial hitches and all the unnecessary air lines, etc., that's all been taken off. Everything's been capped off and simplified. We have replaced the rear differential oil. We singled it, so we moved that one axle. We inspected the forward drive shaft and everything was perfect with that. We didn't have anything we needed to do. That's a quantity 0. Also, the steady bearing was in really good shape, so that was something we didn't have to address, but we inspected. And the truck has had a wheel alignment after we did the singling. Obviously, there's no exhaust left on the back of the sleeper. It's a weed burner pointing down below. And Julie and Tim chose to go with our CANBed, paint matched to the truck. Next, let me take you into the drum box. Tim and Julie and I had quite a few discussions looking at everything they're presently taking with them in their full timing. They're full timing towing their DRV with a pickup right now. And they have lots of cool stuff that they take with them. So we designed this mega drum box to be well, I'll measure it for you. So it's 32 inches deep, 6 feet wide, and designed specifically kind of around their inflatable kayaks. So when they really enjoy their inflatable kayaks, and they wanted a method to be able to hang them and let them dry. So you can see that I've got some bars here, and when I looked at the specs on their inflatable kayaks, they were 24 inches wide. So what I actually have here is hanging space. I made them a little bit wider, so they're 34 inches wide. So the plan here, these bars are evenly spaced. So the back one is 11 inches from the back wall. And then the next one is about 10 and a half inches, kind of from the next bar, if you will. So the plan is to take their inflatable kayaks, come in with the first one, drape it over this bar. We've got 5 inches of clearance height-wise between here. So drape the first kayak over, then come in with the second one, drape it over. We've also got this tracking in the back wall so we can clip in or bungee things to the back wall to keep them from moving around. And of course, we've got some really big heavy-duty shelves, top and bottom. And the gap that we have between these is just over 16 inches. There's a lot of totes that I find you can buy at Walmart or Target that are really, this tends to be a common size, and with this little lip here, a 16-inch tote will fit in there and it won't slide. The other thing we've done is this whole box has been coated with bed liner. So it's that rubberized, really tough stuff. Not only bed liner, but also an a commercial paint on the outside. So it's high gloss and it washes really well. All held down with frame grade hardware. This is a big, giant storage box for taking all the treasures and toys. Let's go back to the binder. I should mention all stainless steel hardware. We've got nice key to like latches, and I'm going to put angle the camera up a little bit. We also put, there you go, a whole bunch of LED lights. It's controlled from a switch down here. You don't have to have the ignition on. There you go. There's a little hidden switch on the side of the drum. So when you're coming in at night, we can illuminate the campground, or when you're trying to get something done in the dark, you can have some campground illumination. Also, these lights that are down on the side, if you see those, I'll adjust the camera. We hooked up one on the left, one on the right. Those activate when you put the truck in reverse. So as soon as you hit reverse, those come on, but you can also control them from the dash too. So we can get lots of illumination for backing in dark conditions. All right, we're getting near the end. So I've even detailed out here, I let people know it's mandatory. My test driving. I have to drive these RV haulers and take them on the road. And of course, that's how I find some of the rattles or squeaks or even mechanical or electrical issues that have to be resolved. Also, I call it a mandatory commercial inspection. You saw that 4-page report. Of course, I located and sold this truck for Julie and Tim. YouTube folks, if interested, I can source one for you, or if you come across a nice one, I'd be happy to customize it for you as well. We do pick up and we do deliver. So all the parts, shipping costs and everything are detailed out here as well. So there's nothing hidden, right? We get down to all the minutiae, all the details of building these RV haulers. Wow. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my time. I'm just going to walk around Ruby. I'm going to go super slow and let Julie and Tim look at Ruby and make sure that everything looks good. Tim, Julie, I look forward to finally meeting you folks in person. It's been a long project build. I feel blessed. I'm honored that you trusted me to build this truck. I'm so excited to see you folks arrive in the yard. I'll be picking you up from the airport and looking forward to driving and seeing you folks enjoy your continued full-timing travels. Let's go do a tour around Ruby. I think I'm just going to be quiet. Let's put some music on here. Sorry, that's just a bit dirty. As you can see, nice new tires. Oh, sorry, I am talking. I said I was going to be quiet. Greg from RVHaulers. Thanks for joining me in this video.